A breakthrough for scientists after they had a 20-minute conversation with a humpback whale.
Did it say I'm tired of fish? I'm tired of plankton?
have.
So this team, including a professor from UC Davis, is hoping for more interspecies dialogue following this groundbreaking exchange with a whale named Twain.
Somewhere in the depths of the ocean, a conversation is happening right now. Not between humans, not between land animals, but between creatures that have been communicating for millions of years, using a language so complex, so intricate, that for centuries we've been completely lost trying to understand it. For decades, scientists suspected whales were saying something meaningful. Songs, calls, patterns that repeated. But here's the problem. We couldn't decode it. We couldn't break the code. Until now. What if I told you that artificial intelligence has finally cracked it? What if I told you that we've finally unlocked the secret language of whales? Well, the answer might shock you, because what we discovered isn't what anyone expected. The mystery. For thousands of years, humans have been fascinated by whales. Ancient sailors spoke of their songs echoing through the ocean. Indigenous cultures revered them as spiritual beings. But it wasn't until the 1960s that marine biologist Roger Payne made a discovery that changed everything. He recorded humpback whale songs, and when he played them back through underwater microphones, the world gasped. These weren't just random noises. These were structured. These were musical. These were songs that lasted up to 30 minutes, with verses and refrains that repeated, evolved, and changed from season to season. What Payne discovered sparked a revolution in marine biology. Suddenly, scientists weren't just studying whales as animals. They were studying them as potential linguists, as potential thinkers, as potential beings with something to say. But here's where it got complicated. We had the recordings, we had the data, but we didn't have the translation manual. How do you decode a language when you don't even know if it's a language in the first place? How do you find meaning in millions of clicks, whistles, and rumbling tones? Think about it. When linguists decode ancient human languages, they have context, they have written records, they have cultural artifacts, they have thousands of years of history to piece together. But with whales, we had nothing but sound waves. Different species of whales communicate differently too. Sperm whales use echolocation clicks. Humpback whales sing elaborate songs. Beluga whales produce whistles and chirps so varied that they're called canaries of the sea. Orcas have dialects that are so distinct, some scientists theorize that different pods might be speaking entirely different languages. For 50 years, scientists tried everything. They looked for patterns. They mapped frequencies. They tracked which whales responded to which sounds. They hypothesized about grammar, syntax, and meaning. But without a Rosetta Stone, without some key that could unlock the system, whale communication remained one of the ocean's deepest mysteries. Until artificial intelligence entered the picture. In the last 5 years, something remarkable has happened. Machine learning algorithms have become sophisticated enough to analyze patterns in ways that human brains simply cannot. We're talking about neural networks that can process millions of data points, recognize relationships, and identify structures in chaos. In 2024, a landmark project called the Earth Species Initiative, working alongside researchers from universities across the globe, decided to take a different approach. Instead of trying to translate whale language directly, they asked a simpler question. Can we identify structure? Can we find meaning in the pattern itself? They fed artificial intelligence systems millions of hours of whale recordings, not just humpbacks, but sperm whales, fin whales, blue whales, belugas, orcas, hundreds of thousands of hours of raw, unfiltered whale communication from all corners of the ocean. Then they let the AI do what it does best, find patterns. What the AI discovered was astonishing. The algorithms identified acoustic units, distinct sounds that functioned like words or syllables. They found these units repeated in structured ways. They discovered that certain sound combinations appeared in specific contexts. They found that different whales modified these sounds based on who they were talking to. But here's where it gets really interesting. The AI didn't just find patterns. It found grammar. It found structure. It found evidence of something that looked suspiciously like actual language. Not random squeaking. Not just mating calls. but communication with apparent syntax and meaning. The breakthrough came when researchers combined the AI analysis with behavioral observations. When a whale made a specific series of clicks followed by a specific whistle, what happened next? Did other whales respond in predictable ways? Did they change their behavior? Did they move toward or away? By layering machine learning with real-world behavioral data, scientists began to build a picture of what these whales might actually be communicating about. And that's when things took an unexpected turn. What they're actually saying. Here's where the story subverts expectations. When we finally started decoding whale language, we assumed we'd find something profound. Deep philosophical discussions, elaborate stories passed down through generations, warnings about ocean predators, instructions on migration routes. We expected whale Shakespeare. What we actually found was both simpler and more complex than anyone anticipated. Sperm whales, for instance, communicate through a system of clicks that researchers are beginning to understand. These clicks aren't random. They follow patterns. Each individual whale has a unique signature in how it produces its clicks. Think of it like a whale's individual voice, but much more nuanced. It's in the exact frequency, the duration, the spacing. Every sperm whale has a personal acoustic fingerprint. But what are they talking about with these clicks? The research suggests that sperm whales use these click patterns to identify each other, to maintain family bonds, and crucially, to coordinate complex deep-diving hunts for giant squid. The clicks seem to serve as both communication and sonar, sending information about the environment while simultaneously telling other whales, "I'm here, I'm part of your family, let's hunt together." Now, humpback whales present a completely different picture. Their elaborate songs don't just serve one function. The AI analysis revealed something fascinating. Humpback songs change geographically and seasonally. Whales in different oceans sing different songs. And here's the kicker. The songs evolve year by year, like a musical trend spreading through a population. Researchers discovered that when one humpback whale population learns a new song pattern, it can spread to other populations. It's like viral music, but in the ocean. It's like humpback whales have their own version of pop songs that catch on, spread, and then get replaced by new hits. This suggests something remarkable about whale culture. Whales can learn from each other, adapt, innovate, and pass these innovations along. But what are the songs actually saying? Here's the surprising part. We still don't know exactly. But the AI analysis suggests they're related to mating, territorial marking, and possibly social bonding. The songs seem to communicate emotional state, aggression or calm, excitement or contentment, dominance or submission. It's not that whales are singing about their feelings the way a human songwriter might. It's more that the acoustic structure itself carries emotional and social information. The pitch, the rhythm, the complexity. All of it communicates something meaningful to other whales. Beluga whales, the canaries of the sea, turned out to have perhaps the most surprising communication system of all. Their whistles and chirps aren't just numerous, they're infinitely variable. The AI discovered that belugas generate new sounds constantly, modifying existing vocalizations in subtle ways. This led scientists to theorize something radical. Belugas might not have a fixed vocabulary. They might be more like improvisational musicians, creating and modifying sounds in real time to suit specific social situations. Imagine if human language worked that way. If instead of having set words, we constantly created slight variations of sounds based on context and emotion. It would require incredible cognitive flexibility and real-time processing. Orcas presented yet another fascinating case. Different orca pods have distinct dialects. A killer whale pod off the coast of British Columbia sounds completely different from a pod near New Zealand. The AI analysis confirmed what scientists suspected. These aren't just variations on a theme. These are actually different dialects, learned and maintained by specific communities. Critically, certain dialect markers never change between generations. If you're born into an orca pod with a specific dialect, you keep that dialect for life. You don't adopt the dialects of other pods, even if you interact with them. It's like being born speaking a language and never acquiring a native accent in any other language. no matter how many other languages you learn. The shocking discoveries. But here's where it gets really strange. The AI discovered things that have genuinely shocked the scientific community. First discovery. Whales have been teaching each other acoustic skills that seemed impossible. Belugas have been observed practicing and refining their vocalizations, almost like they're intentionally training to expand their vocal range. Young belugas spend years making imperfect copies of adult sounds, gradually improving their accuracy. This is behavior we see in human language acquisition, and in some birds, but finding it in whales suggested something we hadn't fully appreciated: conscious, intentional learning. Second discovery. Whales communicate about things that happened in the past. Researchers analyzing sperm whale click patterns found what appears to be temporal markers, acoustic signals that seem to reference previous events. It's speculative, but the evidence suggests that whales might be describing things that aren't happening in the immediate moment. They might be telling stories. They might have memory and the ability to reference it acoustically. Third discovery, and this is the one that really shook up the scientific community. Different whale species might be able to understand each other to some degree. Picture this. Blue whales and fin whales sometimes congregate in the same feeding areas. Their vocalizations operate at completely different frequencies. Blue whales produce the lowest frequency sounds on Earth, while fin whales operate at a higher range. But the AI discovered something. There might be overlap in structural patterns. There might be similarities in how they organize their acoustic information. This led to a hypothesis that's still being tested. Whales might have an underlying universal grammar, a fundamental organizational principle that applies across species. If this is true, if there really is a common linguistic framework underlying cetacean communication, it would suggest that whale language evolved from a common ancestor and maintained fundamental similarities even as different species diverged. The implications are staggering. It means whale language isn't a collection of disconnected communication systems. It means there's a deep structure to it, an order, a logic, possibly even a way that whales could theoretically learn to understand species not their own. So what does all of this actually mean? Why should we care about this research beyond scientific curiosity? First, it changes our understanding of intelligence. For a long time, human intelligence was presented as uniquely sophisticated. We have language, complex society, culture, technology. We assumed that whale intelligence was fundamentally different in kind, not just degree. But as we decode whale communication, we're discovering that intelligence might not be a ladder with humans at the top. It might be more like a tree with many branches. Whales have been solving the problem of communication in a completely different environment, with completely different constraints. They evolved intelligence specifically adapted to the ocean. Their language operates through sound because light doesn't penetrate the ocean. Their communication needs to work over vast distances because whales can migrate thousands of miles. Their language needs to be flexible and adaptive because the ocean is in constant motion, and whales need to adjust to changing conditions. In other words, whale language isn't primitive human language. It's sophisticated communication specifically optimized for cetacean needs and cetacean brains. Second, understanding whale communication has implications for conservation. If we know what whales are saying, we can understand what they need. We can identify which acoustic signals indicate stress or distress. We can recognize when whales are struggling to communicate because of ocean noise pollution. This is critical because ocean noise has become an enormous problem. Ships, sonar, underwater construction. Humans have increased ocean noise levels dramatically in just the last 50 years. For whales that depend on acoustic communication across vast distances, this noise is like trying to have a conversation in a nightclub. It's not just annoying, it can be disorienting and dangerous. By understanding whale communication, scientists can advocate for quieter shipping lanes during migration seasons. They can push for regulations on sonar that interferes with whale communication. They can identify marine protected areas where acoustic silence is preserved as a critical habitat. Third, decoding whale language might give us insights into how to communicate with other species more effectively. If we've learned how to translate whale, might we eventually learn to communicate with dolphins, elephants, or primates in ways we couldn't before? This opens up possibilities for scientific breakthroughs across multiple disciplines. It suggests that we might be closer to understanding animal cognition than we thought. It raises profound questions about consciousness and meaning-making. But we need to be careful not to overstate what we've discovered. The truth is, we haven't actually decoded whale language the way archaeologists decoded Egyptian hieroglyphics, or the way linguists translated ancient texts. We've identified structure. We've found patterns. We've discovered that whale communication has complexity and organization. But translating that into a clear dictionary of whale words and meanings, that remains beyond our reach. Here's the fundamental problem. We don't know what whales are thinking. We can see that a specific sound pattern occurs before a specific behavior, but that doesn't necessarily mean the sound caused the behavior, or that it means what we think it means. For example, when a mother whale produces a particular whistle and her calf moves closer, we might assume the whistle means, "Come here." But maybe it means something more like attention. Maybe it's an expression of emotional state rather than a command. Maybe it's both simultaneously in a way that human language doesn't quite capture. This is why some scientists caution against the narrative that we've decoded whale language. What we've really done is develop better tools for analyzing it. What we've done is confirm that whale communication is far more sophisticated than we previously understood. What we've done is laid the groundwork for future breakthroughs. The AI's role is crucial, but it's also limited. Artificial intelligence can find patterns, but it can't access meaning the way a native speaker can. We could theoretically teach an AI to recognize the phonetic patterns of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics perfectly. But if we don't know what Egyptians were thinking when they wrote those hieroglyphics, we're still limited in our understanding. With whales, we face a similar challenge multiplied. We don't have written records. We don't have cultural artifacts. We don't have any independent way to verify meaning except through observation. And observation, while valuable, is inherently limited.